Good afternoon and welcome to today's Cobb County work session this August 25th, 2026. Today, the Board of Commissioners will receive two presentations. The first is to receive an economic development update regarding our strategic plan. And the second is to receive feedback on our employee survey. I believe our first matter today will be the Economic Development Strategic Plan, and so we'll first hear from our Economic Development Director, Ms. Sabrina Wright.
Good afternoon, Chairwoman Cupid, Commissioners, and County Manager. So today we want to present what we hope is our final presentation and update to the Economic Development Strategic Plan that we've been working on since late last year in partnership with KB Advisory Group. And I would like to first acknowledge some of our economic development partners that are in the room today. We have Hatchbridge, as well as Select Cobb, and a couple others in Town Center CID coming in the room right now. So I want to thank them for their partnership and also their engagement throughout this process of comprising this strategic plan. So bring up Gabby and Jeff Koski and the team from KB Advisory Group. Thank you.
Thank you, Sabrina. Chairwoman and councilors, appreciate your time again. This is a great opportunity for us to share the work that we've done. We know we've been in contact with you quite a bit through this process, and we actually feel really good about where this plan has landed. One of the reasons we feel so good about it is because we feel like we've incorporated a lot of feedback from y'all and from the partners around the county. As you know, we were here a couple months ago with a first draft of what we had put together, and you really pushed us to say, let's dig in a little bit deeper. And so we had many more meetings, including more talk with our steering committee, more talk with some of y'all, and more talk with the partners, the economic development partners, the partners in the county. And so because of that, we think we've produced a plan that incorporates a lot of you, like your fingerprints are all over this, and your partners' fingerprints are all over this. And so we appreciate the opportunity to come back to you again to kind of give you an idea of what the plan, what's in the plan and what it says, and really an opportunity to really ask questions before it becomes, part of an agenda for consideration, agenda item for consideration. So again, at the end of the day, just want to really thank you for your partnership and your leadership as we, worked putting this plan together over the past many months. And so with that, I'm going to hand it off to Gabby, one of our co-project managers, and she's going to kind of give you an idea of the structure, the framework of what's in the plan, and take an opportunity to really answer any questions that you have about how it turned out. So thank you again, and here's Gabby.
Good afternoon. Pleasure to be with you all again. So as Jeff said, we have spent a lot of time since we last spoke with you all, listening to all the feedback that you individually gave to us during the previous work session, but also, as Jeff mentioned, with all of our partners and the team. And so for this session, what we're going to do is just review the timeline once more very quickly, and then I want to go over on a high level a showcase of all the different ways that we did incorporate your feedback into the plan. You got a big vanilla envelope from me, and that includes the EDSP draft as where it stands right now, with everything that we're about to go over. And then we'll leave ample time for you all to ask us any lingering questions that you may have. So first, so we started this process in August of last year, so coming on about a little over a year now. But since the work session that we had with you all back in May, we have added a forest steering committee meeting just to go through particular action items and the goals, and to brainstorm on those a little bit more and add the specificity that you all were requesting of us. And then we've also, you all received a, full long draft with all the different pieces, but having, the opportunity to talk with you all if you had so desired, to ask us even more questions one-on-one, and give us your additional feedback and considerations for things that we need to add into the plan to help make it yours and as useful as possible. And so we are on track to have a potential hopeful adoption with you all if you all are happy with its contents in September. But going on to the pieces that we have updated. So first and foremost was making sure that we made it very clear and detailed about all of the feedback that we heard, right? So the main thing is that we had both a resident and a business survey. And so we have both the kind of a high-level key takeaways from each of those surveys, as well as maps about showing where the locations were of respondents, so that we can kind of see themes from that end, but then also not leaving out the open houses that we had at the end of last year. Those were kind of our first way of gathering public input as part of this process. We had 5 across Cobb County, so you can see the results of the various boards that we asked people to interact with, and kind of the summary pieces that we took from those. But a main part of this was working with all of the partners that Sabrina and her team work with, some on a day-to-day basis, some on a quarterly basis, some on an ad hoc basis. A lot of them you see on here, but it also includes all of the cities. And so we made sure to further emphasize their involvement and their role in help shaping this plan, because even though it is steered at, specifically what Sabrina and her team will be doing, there is a lot that she and her team cannot do alone, and it will be very, very important for her to continue her work with, Select Cobb, the Chamber and the Development Authority, for example. And as well, what we added into the public input section was making sure that, from our steering committee meetings, the takeaways and highlights that we had from those conversations, those were spelled out into the plan as well. Same thing with, recurring themes that we heard from our focus groups, in which we had 3. One with just the cities and with the CIDs, others with, various partners, and then some where we got to speak with some of your business associations. So then we had a large number of stakeholder one-on-ones, and those included partners both internal to the county as well as external. And not only that, you asked us to kind of help think about what is the best way to continue to coordinate with existing partners, or how you would maybe want to pursue, new partnerships that come along the road. Like, what is this framework that can be developed? What is an array of options that you on the board could talk about together? And so we have added that, whether it be, a spectrum of potential agreements that exists and models that you all can discuss and decide which one works best, but also for every single task that we have in our implementation matrix, we have identified a partner entity that will be assisting Sabrina in that effort. So all the people that we have spoken with, they are represented in the implementation matrix of this plan. Something else we were asked to dig deeper on is understanding access and opportunity, especially as we digged into our data section. So we, looked at more from a spatial point of view, looking at, how unemployment, test scores, maybe single-parent households, like how we have to think about where targeted economic development efforts may be most needed and not just tied to redevelopment. And so we have added that as part of that section of the plan and part of the representative goal. And one question, again, was about workforce and making sure that that has been incorporated. So for all of our target industries, right, we have added in, specific occupations that typically fall under all of those, looking at its projected growth within the state of Georgia, right, because thinking about how you can be, layering efforts with what is going on at a higher level, and thinking about as well the type of education that is needed to fill those positions, but as well as their incomes, so that you have a better understanding of when we recruit this job into Cobb County or expand its presence here, who exactly could be filling into those opportunities, and making sure that what the county has and is offering as a support can help fill any gaps that are needed. Right, and I know we talked about this a lot last time, but again, emphasizing, redevelopment as a big focus of this. We have our 3 redevelopment areas, right? The area around Town Center Mall, Austell Road, and Canton Road. Those are going to be, we recommend being the focus ones for this plan, because this is only a 5-year plan and you can only do so much in 5 years, but serving these as the initial ones to look at. And then once we have kind of figured out the framework and the process that works best for maneuvering through redevelopment within the county, then from then that can be expanded then to other areas as needed over time. And we have, very specific strategies and action steps that go for each of these different aspects of redevelopment. But of course, it's also important to outline, but challenges to implementation or obstacles that may come up. So we have kind of addressed some of those into the plan, but of course we've also added, more specific and fine-tuned goals that you'll be pursuing. So it's about business attraction and recruitment. It is looking at, catalytic, redevelopment, thinking about entrepreneurship and small business, economic mobility and workforce, and specifically partner coordination. So all of the recommendations that we have in the plan for you all to then, pursue and lead are all tied to those 5 goals specifically. And so each of them, you can see, the action item has a desired time frame that we recommend that you would kind of start doing them, so you can design roadmaps between now and 5 years from now. And then each of these goals also have various metrics assigned to them. Some are just tasks, like making sure that you've pursued X thing by the end of 5 years, but other ones are more about measuring impact. So we have a combination of both of those at the end of each of the goals, so that making sure that whatever work is being done has some sort of accountability that is then brought to you all to assess progress on all of them over the 5 years. So that was our summary of incorporating all the feedback that we have heard, from your work session, from the comments, from feedback that we have heard since then. But we are happy to answer any lingering questions or any new ones that have come up during this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, and thank you for the time that you took to listen to each one of us that reached out to you following the prior work session and incorporating that feedback into the final product. I'll open it up now to see if any commissioners have any comments or questions.
Just a good job working with the partners and staff, and our economic development team does a phenomenal job. I try to attend all their coffee and conversations and the open houses that we had for this as well. So thank you, Sabrina.
They've been a pleasure to work with.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Thank you for your presentation.
All right, thank you so much.
Okay, next up, we will have a presentation by our ITS Director, Kimberly Lemley, which will provide our employee survey results for 2026.
All right. Good afternoon, Chairwoman, Commissioners, and County Manager. So we're going to be reviewing our 2026 Employee Satisfaction Survey results. We're going to also do a quick comparison to the 2024 survey results, and then we're going to discuss our strengths and opportunities with these results, and then review the next steps of what our departments are doing after they've seen their results. So just to recap, we did our employee survey. We had 13 questions on the survey, and there were 2 open-ended questions at the end. Those were, what 3 words would you use to describe the culture at the county? And then just an open-ended comment box to share with the leadership team. We shared the survey via email, the employee newsletter. It was posted on Cobb. And, we've asked departmental HR reps and departmental communication staff to get the word out. The survey ran from April 1st through April 24th. And then this is just these are the stats of our response rate. So we emailed it all out to the entire county, so it included part-time and seasonal workers. So that's at the time that was 5,679 employees, and we had 2,031 employees respond. All right, so we're going to go over just the results of each question. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on every question, and I know that I've shared the presentation with you previously, so you may have had a chance to look at it. Dr. McMorris shared it as well back in, I believe, June, gave you some packets with some information. So the first question was, what level are you in the organization? So obviously we had a lot of employees, 67% of the people that took the survey were our employees, and then we had managers and elected officials. So the next question was, do you feel genuinely valued at this organization? And overall, you can see that the results were positive. People agreed, strongly agreed, and then there was some in the middle, and then we had a lesser amount that disagreed. And then I'm kept well informed about key decisions within this organization. Again, the majority of the responders were positive on this question. The next couple of questions, does my supervisor actively support my learning and professional growth? It's a very big strength in that area throughout the county. And then, do you feel a sense of belonging at this organization? Again, very positive results with 44% agree and 21% strongly agree. Next couple, do you recommend this place this organization is a great place to work? Again, very positive. Do you have confidence in this organization's overall leadership team? And this question was split out into two different questions. This first one was the leadership team being the county manager's office, agency directors, and department heads. And then the next question being elected officials. So if we go back to this one, again, very positive in terms of the leadership team, the administrative leadership team. And then the elected official question, again, positive overall. There's, and we'll get into some comparisons a little bit later on, but still all pretty positive results. And then our question on, do you feel as an employee that this organization genuinely values you and your well-being? Again, very positive. We had 37% agree, strongly agree, so it's all very positive results. Question 10 was, do you feel like you're informed of the county's benefits, the employees' benefits, such as the tuition assistance reimbursement, the employee discounts, perks, things such as, like maybe the homeowner incentives, and then development opportunities. So this is a very positive result. We had almost 50% say they agree, 16.9 strongly agree, and then we had about 20% neither agree or disagree, just neutral on the question. But you'll see we have a couple of opportunities in this area to improve a little bit later on in the presentation. All right, and this was a very important question for our county manager, I know, and for all of you. We asked our employees to rank the potential benefit enhancements in order of priority of what would be most important to them. And so pretty much across the board, there were a few anomalies but in different departments, but pretty much across the board, the employees ranked a cost of living adjustment as the #1 benefit or potential benefit. The second was increase the hybrid retirement match for those that are on the newer retirement plan. And certification incentives were third. And that being, if you get certain certifications within your field, maybe there's a bonus, like a $500 bonus or $1,000. Just, we've worked on this certification incentive plan for several years now, putting structure around it and what it would look like if we could ever implement that. But that was ranked number 3 across the board. And then annual leave buyback, 1 week of annual leave buyback, similar to the sick leave buyback that we do, was ranked 4th. And then the tuition reimbursement program, increasing that was pretty much the lowest ranked option among the entire workforce. Any questions on that before I continue? Okay, and this one is a good slide to share. This was the what 3 words would you use to describe the culture at this organization. So this is our word cloud. Obviously, the larger words were the ones that were repeated multiple times by the respondents. And so you see really good positive words: collaborative, supportive, inclusive, diverse. But there's also some, less than positive results in there: siloed, political, and I don't need to read all that, inconsistent. So you can see that in your notes in the slideshow. But overall, I feel like everything was positive. All right. Okay, any questions before we get into the comparison to 2024? Nope. Okay. All right, so here's our comparison. This is just the response rate. We invited around 5,500 employees in 2024, and we had a response rate of 54%, and then this year we had 36%. So definitely less than half. We tried, we pushed it out as much as we could. So, we did our best trying to get the everyone to respond. So that was down 18%. But mostly everything else was very positive. So from 2024 to 2026, the value that people feel working here increased by 11%, which is great. Keeping well informed about decisions, that improved 9% from the 2024 survey. Supervisor actively supporting growth increased 5%. Sense of belonging, 5%. Enthusiastically recommending this as a great place to work. A little bit smaller difference, but still in the right direction. It's going up, so that's great. And then on this question and the other question regarding the leadership with elected officials, we did not differentiate back in 2024. That question, we did not differentiate between administrative versus elected officials. So I'm only going to show this slide, but it increased 11%. So again, very, very positive. And that's that. And then employees feeling that we prioritize their well-being. Again, it's 3%. And this is the one area that actually went down. So we did do a deeper dive into this data to understand where people said they didn't feel quite as informed. And we worked with Kristen Loffman on this as the employee communications specialist. So we gave her the list of which departments that said that, ranked them from the ones that said that they didn't feel informed down to the ones that said that they do. And most of those areas were in public safety. So Kristen has already taken an action item to put together kind of I guess you could say like a benefits roadshow. And she's going to go around to the different public safety departments that were in that list and, just give more information, share as much, Q&A, and really focus on making sure that they understand what's available to them. Another area that we're working on together as a joint effort between HR and ITS is redoing the Cobb intranet page. So later this week, we'll be launching a new Cobb site, and it's just going to be a little bit more intuitive, a little easier to access because it'll be accessible outside the county network. So, anywhere that you are as an employee, you can log into the site and get information, where right now it's all internal. You have to be on site or connected into the VPN to get it. And here's just a little screenshot, a little teaser of what it's going to look like. So definitely a little bit more user-friendly, and that'll evolve after we launch it. Okay. Any questions on the comparison before we just go into the strengths? Okay, so the overall strengths that we gleaned from this survey is that supervisor support, so the people that feel supported by their direct supervisor, is a very strong strength. Over 78% of the employees said that they feel that their supervisor actively supports their growth, their professional growth, their learning and professional growth. And that percentage, the percentage listed under each item, is a total of the agree and strongly agree, if you look back at the first set of slides. Employees generally reported a positive sense of belonging, and the majority of employees feel genuinely valued here at our organization. Employee advocacy is more positive than negative, and that's the question where, would you recommend this as a place to work? 58.7% total. Confidence in the organization's overall leadership is positive. Employees reported a relatively strong awareness of benefits and development resources. Even though we know that that is an action item that we're going to take to improve, there was still, the majority of the employees responded favorably. And then positive culture descriptors point to a constructive foundation, and that's the word cloud that we're talking about, that we're specifically citing here. The common words: professional, friendly, inclusive, welcoming, dedicated, community-oriented, and teamwork. And I think we all agree with those adjectives. All right, so growth opportunities. One area of growth is the communication on key decisions. That's a significant improvement area because about 50% rated that they feel that they're kept well informed. So that's one area, just communicating down more in the organizations from the top level, from this level all the way down. Another area for growth is the employee well-being still remains an opportunity area. Again, it's not bad. It's just that there is a way for us to improve in that area because there were a large number of employees that were just neutral. Like they didn't say yes or no, they were just neutral in that area. And then the last one on this slide, just the confidence in elected officials and overall policy direction is lower than the confidence in the administrative leadership team. So that was at 47% from the elected officials, so compared to over 50% on the administrative team. And then the last two areas are a meaningful portion of employees remain unconvinced about their value and belonging here. So again, the results were overall positive, but still there were about 40% that were just neutral or unfavorable. And so we definitely have a action item to maybe understand and dig a little bit deeper into, what does that mean? I know for my department, and I presented not too long ago, I presented the results in a department-wide meeting, and that was an area for my department as well, like understanding maybe the bigger picture, right? Like what you do as an employee matters here. And so I have got some action items to take for my department on how we can make that a little bit better and understand a little bit more about what employees are thinking. And then back to our word cloud, our cultural descriptors also reflect concerns. Even though we had a lot of positive, what 3 words, there were a lot of positive words, there were still some negative annotations there: inconsistent, bureaucratic, micromanaged, underpaid, toxic, overworked, understaffed, disconnected, disorganized, stagnant, political, stressful, and siloed. So we have lots of opportunities to address those areas. And then incentive enhancements, which I've already talked about. It was very clear, the employees, like I said, gave very clear rankings on what was most important to them, which was a COLA. And then the hybrid retirement match and certification incentives. Those were the top 30. And then I want to take a moment to, there we go. To thank you for your support of the COLA and the continued COLA and the merit. We appreciate everything that, I know you have a tough job and you make decisions, but on behalf of the workforce, I'm just going to speak for everybody. We do thank you for making those decisions and allowing us to have a COLA and merit this past year and this upcoming year. So, all right. So next steps. So the results have been shared with all the departments and elected officials. We shared the results with a presentation similar to this at Dr. McMorris's department head retreat in May. So presented the departments with their individual results. We went through the overall county results, and we did packets for each of those departments on their individual comments that were made by their employees, as well as some analytics on their results. When we returned from the retreat, I prepared the data for each elected official office and shared that with them as well. So every department has received their results. At our retreat, Dr. McMorris, and when we did our presentation, we instructed the BOC departments to review and share these results with their teams, look at the key findings, go over the strengths and the opportunities for improvement, and then create a plan for your department to respond to the feedback that your employees provided. And so our task was to track the progress, share the updates with the employees, and then just communicate how we're changing the way we're moving forward with those employees, which is what I mentioned, like what I did, provided the results and had a few action plans associated with each of those that we're going to work on as a management team and as a department as a whole. And then, just in summary, like our commitment for these surveys, and I know Dr. McMorris's commitment, is to turn this feedback into visible results, not just in measurable progress, not just present to you and present to the department heads, and then that's the end of it. We have to continue to work through the negative areas and make sure that we're staying above the positive level and all the responses that we got that were so positive. So continue the good work, but also look at the opportunities and challenges and move forward to improve those. And I think our goal, and I don't want to necessarily speak for Dr. McMorris, but I do believe our goal is to try to do these surveys every couple of years, just to continue to keep a pulse on how things are headed, for the county and the workforce. Any questions?
Thank you for the feedback and
Okay.
presenting the data, and for the commitment to continue to provide these for our organization. I think generally it'll provide us a trend for the organization.
Yeah, thank you. I do want to mention one last thing, that when we were asked to create the survey, we didn't know exactly what we were, how we were going to handle this and how we were going to approach it. But the one thing that we knew is that we didn't have the funding in the budget to contract out with an official employee engagement firm. Again, it was around a $90,000 cost that just wasn't in Dr. McMorris's budget or our budget. And so, she reached out to see if we could do this in-house. And so we did, and we saved, about $90,000 with our in-house tools and our staff. And I wanted to especially thank the people on this slide that helped create the survey. So Kristen Loftman from HR, she's our employee communication specialist. You're all very familiar with her. Her and Dr. McMorris worked together to create the questions. And then she worked with me and my staff, Catherine Horning. She is part of our GIS team, and she created the survey in the tool, one of the tools that we have. And then Wesley Flowers, he's one of our enterprise data analysts. And he's the one that did all the results and pulled all the data together. So the slides that you saw with the comparison and the percentages, Wesley did all that. So I'm very thankful for him. And then Tisha Jamison, she is my senior administrative assistant, and she helped me pull together all the results for the department head retreat. And there was a lot of work to put the packets together and get ready for that. So I just want to thank them for helping with this effort and helping us save a little money for the county.
Thank you. So just for clarification, the other survey was provided by another firm, and this one was done internally?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Back in 2024, it was Intergage, I believe, was the company. And I don't know what the cost of it was back then, but obviously prices have increased, and it was around $90,000 to do that again. So we just had not planned for that in the budget, or maybe it was planned for and it just didn't get approved. So we were able to use our in-house tools to create it.
I think it's helpful to know, just sometimes approaches may be different internally versus externally, just based on their methodology or their approach. So it just puts that in perspective. But again, I think overall getting the general trend data is very helpful.
Yeah, I mean, it is hard to compete with a purpose-built employee engagement, satisfaction survey tool. It is very hard to compete with that. We did our best when Kristen and Dr. McMorris were crafting the questions to make sure that the questions were very similar to what was asked, not maybe the exact same verbiage, but very similar. And then, of course, with the advance of all of the AI and analytics that we can do, we pull together presentations for the departments based on analytics, which is something that the previous tool had as well. It's just maybe a little bit more robust than what we had, but I think it accomplished our goal for sure.
So we're able to bring a team together to get
Yes.
it done. Great.
Okay.
Do any commissioners have any comments or questions? Thank you, Kimberly,
Okay,
for
thank
providing
you.
that survey result with us. This concludes our meeting for today. We encourage everyone to please come back to our Board of Commissioners meeting this evening at 7 p.m. Thanks, and we are now adjourned.